Blaster fire poured from the ridges like molten rain, cutting through smoke thick enough to choke the dying. The plains of Aruvan were no longer earth, they were glass and blood. The sky itself burned crimson under the glare of Corelli warships drifting like black gods above the horizon. Commander Saris Valen knelt in the dust, one knee pressed into a crater of molten ash. Her breath rasped through a cracked rebreather. Around her, what remained of the Valen spear guard formed a ragged circle, 40 warriors where there had once been thousands. Their armor shimmered with heat fractures, their banners little more than scorched ribbons fluttering in the toxic wind. "Hold the line!" she shouted, her voice raw but steady. "We stand until the end!" No one answered, but none ran. That was enough. A thunderclap split the smoke. A massive Corelli drop suit, a towering, insectal machine bristling with weapons, crashed into the battlefield. Its pilot, a hulking alien encased in black armor, raised a vibro halberd and pointed it toward her. "Saris Valen." The voice boomed through a distortion field. "Your resistance dies with you. Kneel, and your people will be remembered. Resist, and even your bones will burn." Saris rose slowly, gripping her spear, a relic passed from her mother, its blade glowing faintly with the last charge of its plasma core. Her hands shook, not from fear but exhaustion. "We don't kneel," she said. The duel began. The Corelli's strike shattered the air. Saris met it, her spear flickering against the halberd's edge. Sparks lit the ruins like fireflies. She ducked under a sweeping arc, lunged, and struck deep, but the blade splintered against armor too strong. The crack echoed like thunder. Her weapon snapped in two. The Corelli twisted his halberd for the killing blow. And the world shook. A thunderous boom rolled across the plains, so deep it rattled the bones of the dead. Every head turned skyward. Through the swirling clouds, a streak of white fire tore the sky apart. It wasn't a meteor. It was descending too fast, too controlled. A burning capsule, shedding molten fragments as it screamed toward the ground. What is that?" one soldier gasped. The Corelli commander barked orders, deploying shields. The capsule hit the battlefield between armies like the fist of a god. The shockwave threw Saris off her feet. Dust and plasma rippled outward, toppling wreckage, flipping corpses, and silencing both armies for a heartbeat. Then silence. A crater smoldered in the center of the field. From within the haze, metal creaked. Something moved. A hatch burst open with a hiss of pressurized air. A figure climbed out, humanoid, tall, broad-shouldered, wrapped in black armor etched with symbols no one recognized. His visor glowed faint blue beneath the dust. Steam coiled off his shoulders as he stepped forward. The Corelli soldiers opened fire instantly. Plasma bolts hammered his armor, but he kept walking unshaken. He raised his weapon, an old, boxy rifle whose barrel shimmered with energy far older than anything on Aruvan. One pull of the trigger, and light exploded. The front rank of Corelli troopers disintegrated in a wave of white fire. Saris's eyes widened. That wasn't Corelli tech. That wasn't anything from this age. The stranger's voice came through the static, flat but human. "Identify friendly forces." She hesitated. "Who are you?" He turned his head slightly toward her, the faint reflection of her battered form glimmering in his visor. "Captain Daniel Reyes, Terran Command." The name meant nothing, until the translation chip in her suit filtered it. Terran. The word struck a memory buried in every history archive, every myth, every whispered bedtime story. The humans, the extinct warriors of old Earth. But that couldn't be possible. "You're lying," she whispered. He didn't answer. He just shouldered his rifle again and advanced through the smoke. His movements were efficient, precise, almost mechanical, but there was something undeniably alive in the way he fought. Controlled fury. The Corelli warlord roared and charged him. Reyes ducked under the halberd's swing, drove a boot into the alien's midsection, and fired point blank. The halberd melted. The warlord fell, armor collapsing inward. Saris blinked. In her life, she had seen 1,000 battles, but never someone move like that. The human turned toward her troops, voice amplified through his suit. If you want to live, fall behind me. For a heartbeat, the warriors hesitated. Then instinct overrode disbelief. They rallied. The Corelli ranks regrouped, advancing with mechanical precision. Drones hovered overhead, targeting systems locking. Reyes toggled a control on his wrist. Athena status. A smooth voice replied inside his helmet. Systems at 47%. Environment hostile. Hostile count, 206. Recommendation: fight smart. Copy that. He dropped to one knee, planted a device into the ground, and twisted it. A shimmering blue field burst outward, a temporary shield. The Corelli's next volley scattered harmlessly across it. Now! Reyes shouted. Ceres didn't understand the weapon, but she understood opportunity. She surged forward, half spear in hand, cutting through disoriented soldiers. The spear guard followed, roaring battle cries lost to the storm. For minutes that felt like hours, they fought side by side, alien and human, ancient and mythic. Reyes covered the flanks, precision bursts dropping Corelli troopers before they could reload. Ceres darted through openings he created, driving her broken spear into exposed joints. The rhythm of combat became wordless communication. When the dust finally settled, silence stretched over the field. Corelli bodies littered the ground. The rest retreated into the smoke, dragging their wounded. Reyes stood motionless for a moment, scanning for heat signatures. Then he lowered his rifle. Clear. Ceres stumbled toward him, every muscle trembling. You can't be real, she said softly. Humans are extinct. He looked down at her, visor cracked, revealing tired brown eyes behind it. Seems someone forgot to tell me. Her throat tightened. If what you are is true, then the galaxy's greatest myth just fell from the sky. Not a myth, he said quietly. Just late. The surviving warriors gathered around, staring at him as if he were a god. None spoke. The glow of burning wreckage reflected across his armor like a second dawn. Ceres finally straightened, lifting the broken half of her spear. Then welcome back, Captain Reyes. We could use your help. He gave a small, almost weary smile. You look like you could use more than help. Behind them, thunder rolled again, but this time from engines above. The Corelli fleet was moving. Reyes glanced skyward. Then we'd better move fast. Tell me everything about your enemy. Ceres met his gaze. You're standing on a dying world, she said. And that, she pointed to the horizon where enemy dropships were descending, is the one trying to finish it. Reyes chambered another round. Good, he said. I hate unfinished work. And as the light from the fires painted his armor gold, the ancient myths of humanity stopped being stories, and became war again. The caves beneath the Aruvan plains breathed with heat and shadow. Streams of molten light ran like veins through the rock, casting an amber glow on the broken faces of Ceres Valen's surviving warriors. They sat in silence, armor scorched, eyes hollow. The air tasted of iron and ash. Captain Daniel Reyes worked in the corner of the cavern, stripping and reassembling his rifle by touch. The weapon hissed faintly as cooling vents cycled. His movements were methodical, practiced calm in a storm of uncertainty. Ceres watched him from across the fire pit, trying to fit the pieces together. This man who had fallen from the sky fought like a storm-given flesh, but he didn't boast, didn't posture. He acted as if war were routine, as if centuries hadn't passed. Finally she spoke. You said you were Terran Command? That name exists only in records older than my species. Reyes looked up, eyes shadowed under his cracked visor. How long has it been since Earth made contact? Earth, she repeated, testing the ancient word. The last known record of your people dates back 12 centuries. They vanished after the solar exodus. He exhaled through his teeth, a sound somewhere between disbelief and bitter amusement. 1,200 years. He glanced at the ceiling as though the number itself were heavier than the stone above. That explains why my systems are half-rotted. Athena, confirm. The AI's voice crackled from his helmet, clear and feminine. Temporal displacement confirmed. Cryostasis duration, 1,194 standard years. Ceres's soldiers stirred. One muttered a prayer, another made a warding gesture. Ceres ignored them. How did you survive so long? Reyes shrugged. Cryosuspension. Emergency pod. The mission failed. I guess the system didn't get the memo. He paused, scanning her group. You said my people are myths? They are more than myths, she said softly. Your legend. The first warriors. The ones who refused to bow to any empire. Every species remembers the stories. Humans burn their own world rather than surrender. You became the standard by which courage is measured. Reyes gave a faint smile, humorless. We were just good at making bad decisions look noble. Ceres studied him, his weary eyes, the quiet weight in his voice. This was no savior from a storybook. He was tired, maybe even broken. But when he fought, he became something unshakable. A low rumble echoed through the tunnels. Dust drifted from the ceiling. The Corelli were searching the ruins. Ceres rose. They'll find us soon. Reyes snapped his rifle together. Then we don't wait for them. How many fighters do you have? 35, she said. Most wounded. We lack heavy arms. Good, he said. That means you move quiet. Her brow furrowed. Quiet? Against the Dominion? Noise gets you killed. Smart gets you home. He stood, adjusting a small device on his wrist. You know these tunnels? She nodded. Every inch. Then you'll lead me. I'll handle the rest. They moved. The air grew tighter as they descended deeper into the labyrinth. Ceres guided them through the old Arovan mining network, half collapsed and glowing faintly from geothermal veins. Every few steps, Reyes placed small sensors along the walls, their blue lights blinking once before vanishing into stealth mode. What are those? She asked. Early warning drones. Homemade when I didn't have better tech. Your people built weapons that lasted 1,000 years, she said. You call that homemade? He didn't reply. When they reached a junction, Reyes crouched, studying his hollow map. The Corelli will use pulse-tracking drones. You said they move in squads of 10? Yes. They sweep with resonance scanners. Then they'll come through this corridor, he said, pointing. Narrow choke point, poor field of fire. Perfect for an ambush. Ceres frowned. You mean to face them here? We can't outlast. He cut her off, calm but firm. You're not outlasting them. You're bleeding them. You hit hard, vanish, hit again. You make them afraid of the dark. Something in his voice silenced her protest. The authority of someone who'd lived inside wars that devoured planets. Minutes later, the Corelli arrived, dark figures moving with mechanical precision, scanners sweeping the walls. Then one of them tripped a sensor. Reyes pressed a switch. The tunnel erupted in blue light. Mines detonated, collapsing the ceiling behind the Corelli unit and sealing them in. Trapped. No, Reyes said. Ceres lunged from cover. Her broken spear, reforged with a shard of human alloy, cut through the first trooper's armor. Reyes fired short, surgical bursts, dropping targets before they could adjust. It was fast, brutal, efficient. When the last Corelli fell, the tunnel glowed with smoldering debris. Ceres turned to him, breath ragged. That wasn't a battle. That was butchery. He reloaded in silence, eyes hard. That's how you win when you're outnumbered. A flicker of fear crossed her face, but beneath it, respect. She had fought beside countless commanders, but none who wielded chaos-like strategy. They moved on, clearing section by section. Each fight built rhythm, her warriors learning his cues, his tactics adjusting to their strengths. For the first time in weeks, they weren't running, they were striking back. When the last of the tunnels were secure, they regrouped around the faint glow of the geothermal vents. One of her soldiers, a young fighter named Care, stepped forward. Commander, he fights like 3 of us combined. What is he? Ceres looked to Reyes. He was sitting on a crate, staring into the molten river, lost in thought. He's human, she said quietly. That means, he's what we were meant to be. Care bowed his head. Then maybe we have a chance. Saris crossed the cavern, sitting beside Reyes. Your arrival changed everything, she said. The Curly believe you a weapon. The Resistance believes you a savior. I'm neither, he said. Just a soldier who got left behind. You underestimate what your existence means. He gave a tired half-smile. Hope's a dangerous thing. It gets people killed. And yet, she replied, it's the only thing that makes dying worth something. They sat in silence for a long moment, the hum of the molten vents filling the space between them. Finally, he spoke. What's your plan, Commander? To survive. To keep my people alive until someone remembers us. Then we share the same mission. He rose, extending a hand. Let's make the Curly remember why humans became myths. Her hand met his, firm, calloused. Agreed. Above, the distant thunder of engines trembled through the stone. The Curly fleet was descending again, angrier this time. Saris met his gaze. They won't stop until we're ash. Reyes adjusted his visor. Then we'll make them choke on it. As the tunnels trembled, Saris realized the truth. The man who fell from the sky wasn't just human. He was the echo of a forgotten fury, a relic that refused extinction. And for the first time in years, the word hope didn't sound like a lie. The dawn over Aruvan was black. Smoke blotted out the light, and the sky thundered with the sound of engines descending through storm clouds. The Curly Dominion's fleet hung low above the horizon, dark silhouettes rimmed with plasma fire. For the first time in centuries, the Dominion had emptied its sky for one dying world. Saris Valen stood on a cliff overlooking the plains, armor patched with scavenged plating, her new spear gleaming faint blue in the dimness. The alloy in its shaft came from the remains of Daniel Reyes's drop pod, a symbol forged from two worlds. Below her, the remnants of her army gathered among the ruins, faces set, silent. They knew what waited beyond those clouds. Reyes approached from the ridge, exo-armor scarred and patched with alien metal. He carried his helmet under one arm, eyes shadowed from sleepless hours. He looked at the Curly ships like a man staring at ghosts. How many left? He asked. Less than 200, Saris said. If they land, we won't hold. They won't land. He looked toward the horizon where black smoke bled into the clouds. They'll burn the planet instead. Saris's jaw tightened. Then we strike first. He studied her for a moment, tired, bruised, unbroken. You sound like one of us now. I learned from the best, she said. A faint smile touched his lips, then faded. He turned to his wrist display. A flicker of light projected a topographical map of the region. Beneath it, faint outlines of ancient structures buried deep below the surface. Your people built cities on the bones of something older, he said. Human signal architecture. Military grade. You're saying there's human tech under this world? More than tech, he said. An orbital weapon platform. Self-sustaining. Coded to respond only to Terran command protocols. She frowned. Can it still work after a millennium? Reyes's voice was quiet. Only one way to find out. He moved fast, rallying the soldiers into teams. Saris followed his orders without hesitation. Every motion, every command he gave had the precision of someone who had done this too many times before. For him, battle was not chaos, it was mathematics. They descended into the ruins, collapsed tunnels that led to a hidden bunker deep below the rock. The corridors glowed faintly with human script still pulsing along the walls, as though the base had been waiting for a voice to wake it. Reyes placed his palm on the control terminal. His armor's interface flickered, then synced. A hum filled the air as the ancient systems powered up. Dust fell from the ceiling like ash. System online. Athena's voice echoed softly. Orbital cannon link detected. Reactor integrity, unstable. Guidance system offline. Can you fire manually? Reyes asked. Negative. Requires direct uplink from atmospheric beacon. Saris looked at him. Meaning? He met her gaze. Meaning someone has to climb to the surface, activate the uplink by hand, and stay there long enough for the cannon to lock on. Her expression hardened. You intend to do it? He didn't answer. The silence was enough. She stepped closer, voice low. You don't have to die here, Daniel. He looked at her, calm, resolute. I was supposed to die 1,000 years ago. This seems overdue. Before she could speak, the ground shuddered. The Corelli bombardment had begun. Explosions rippled through the surface above, collapsing tunnels, sending waves of fire through the vents. Reyes sealed his helmet. Get your people to the evacuation tunnels. When the cannon fires, this whole sector's going to vaporize. Saris gripped his arm. You fire it, you die. He glanced toward the ceiling, where distant thunder rolled through the stone. Everyone dies. Not everyone gets to matter. She wanted to stop him, but the look in his eyes, the quiet determination, the soldier's calm before the storm, told her she couldn't. He was already climbing when she called out. Daniel! He paused at the ladder's mouth. For what it's worth, she said softly, the myths didn't do you justice. His reply came through the comms steady. Myths don't bleed. He reached the surface just as the first Corelli warforms descended, towering machines blotting out the horizon. Drones swept low, plasma cannons scouring the battlefield. He ran through the chaos, armor scorched by near misses, until he reached the communication spire that jutted from the ruins like a broken tooth. The uplink console sparked as he tore away the dust-caked panels. He slammed his gauntlet into the interface. Athena, start transmission. Warning, exposure level critical. Recommend immediate withdrawal. Do it anyway. The beacon flared to life, shooting a lance of blue light into the clouds. Above, deep in orbit, a silent system woke from 1,000-year slumber. Ancient targeting satellites reoriented, their sensors painting the Corelli fleet with invisible marks. Signal locked, Athena said. Through the haze, Saris watched from the cliffs, her people sheltering in the trenches. The beam of light from the uplink burned through the storm. Then came the retaliation. Corelli dreadnoughts turned their guns toward the beacon. Energy lanced down in torrents. The ground split, and the sky turned white. Reyes stood in the center of it, one hand pressed to the console, the other clutching his rifle. His armor burned, systems failing one by one. Athena, he said through static. Finalize the uplink. Confirmed. Firing sequence engaged. He looked up. Through the storm, he could see the shape of the orbital cannon cutting through the clouds, a colossal spear of light descending from the void. Tell them, he started, voice fading. Tell who, Captain? He smiled faintly beneath his cracked visor. Tell them we're still here. The sky answered with fire. A blinding beam struck from orbit, slicing through the Corelli fleet. Ships disintegrated in cascading explosions, their shockwaves flattening entire mountains. The blast consumed the plains, vaporizing the enemy legions. The ground shook for miles. In the bunkers below, Saris shielded her face as light poured through every crack in the stone. When the tremors ceased, silence followed, a silence too complete to believe. She climbed out, breath ragged, eyes stinging from the ash. The battlefield was gone. Only scorched earth and molten glass remained where the Corelli army had stood. At the center of the crater, half buried in fused rock, lay a single fragment of black armor, its visor cracked, faint blue light still flickering behind it. Saris knelt beside it, her reflection distorted in the melted glass. Her hand trembled as she picked up the helmet. From the shattered speaker, Athena's fading voice whispered, Mission complete. Terran command, standing by. Then silence. She rose slowly, holding the helmet to her chest. Around her, her soldiers emerged from the ruins stunned, gazing at the sky now clearing of smoke. One of them spoke softly. He did it, he destroyed them. Saris looked up. The clouds had parted. The first light of true dawn spilled across the horizon. No, she said. He reminded them who we were. She turned to her warriors, her voice steady though her throat ached. Spread the word. Humanity lives. And they fight with us. The wind carried the words over the shattered plains, through the ashes of the Corelli dead, into the rising sun. Far above, the orbital cannon drifted silently, a relic returned to sleep. But across the galaxy, sensors and listening posts began to awaken. The signal that had fired the weapon carried a message encoded in Terran protocol, 3 words that no one had seen in 1,000 years. Humanity endures still. And on that broken world, as dawn claimed the sky, Saris Valen lifted her reforged spear high above her head. The sky remembers their fire, she whispered. And somewhere beyond the stars, humanity heard her.